I swear, every time I think I've seen it all, something like this comes along and I'm like, really? We need to talk about this so-called big beautiful bill that Trump's been pushing. Listen, I'm going to break it down for you because this ain't just some regular policy change and I'm only allowed 6 minutes. So let's get in it. This bill will be affecting voting rights, healthcare, and education. You know, just the little things that shape our entire lives. So buckle up because we're about to dive into what this really means for us. All right, let's start with the basics. This big beautiful bill. And can we talk about that name for a second? Like, who are they trying to fool? Anyway, this bill is supposedly going to change the game when it comes to how we vote, how we get health care, and how our kids learn. Believe it. Now, you all know I'm not one to just accept what they're telling us without asking some questions. So here's the deal. The Peterson League of Women are going to look at 3 main areas: voting rights, healthcare, and education. Now, let's talk about voting rights. This is where it gets real interesting. This bill is supposed to be changing how we vote, who can vote, and where we can vote. But here's the thing. Are these changes helping us or holding us back? Because I got to tell you, I'm seeing some red flags, no pun intended. First off, they're messing with voter ID laws. Excuse me? We need to make sure our seniors, and well, everyone has an ID. They're already telling us our license is no longer real. What is that really about? And now they're talking about making it even harder. Nah, something ain't right here. For example, they're proposing that everyone needs a government-issued photo ID to vote. You know how many folks in our community don't have that? Heck, I don't have a real ID yet. Plus, they're changing how we can register to vote and where polling places can be. We need to pay attention to this because it could seriously impact voter turnout, especially in our neighborhoods. Now in Patterson, we've done the redistricting already, so that shouldn't affect us anytime soon. But who knows? They're talking about closing polling places in urban areas, you know, where we live, and moving them further out. How's that for making it harder to vote? This isn't just inconvenient, it's strategic. Can we just call it voter suppression? We've got to understand what this really means for our ability to make our voices heard at the ballot box, which is why we need people like you to encourage others to vote. All right, let's switch gears and talk about healthcare. Now, y'all know healthcare in this country has been a mess for a long time. So when they start talking about changes, we got to look real close at what those changes actually mean. This bill is affecting insurance coverage, like our mammograms, Medicaid, and how they deal with pre-existing conditions. Here's the thing though, are these changes actually going to help folks who need it most? Because let me tell you something, when it comes to healthcare, the devil is in the details. They might be talking a big game about improving things, but we need to look at how this affects low and middle income families. Are costs going up or down? Can people actually afford to go to the doctor now? These are the real questions we need answers to. For instance, they're talking about rolling back Medicaid expansion. 10.9 million people will possibly lose their health insurance. You know what that means? It's going to affect state workers and others as well. And don't even get me started on pre-existing conditions. They're saying they'll protect them. But the fine print tells a different story. Insurance companies might be able to charge more for certain conditions. That's not protection. That's punishment. The long game is telling us, take care of ourselves because we don't know what tomorrow brings with this guy. Now let's get into education because y'all know this is close to my heart. This bill is supposed to be changing how schools get funded and who gets access to what kind of education. And let me tell you, anytime they start messing with education funding, we need to pay attention. So here's what we're looking at: changes in federal education funding. Now that might not sound interesting, but trust me, whether you have kids or not, it affects the schools and our community. This is about whether our schools are going to have the resources they need. Peterson is already behind the 8 ball and on the list for federal cuts. And we got to ask, are these changes going to help or hurt schools in our communities? Because you know as well as I do, our kids often get the short end of the stick when it comes to education resources, not to mention our students with special needs. For example, They're talking about shifting more funding to charter schools and voucher programs. Sounds nice, right? But what about our public schools? They're already struggling, and now they might get even less money. And let's be real, not everyone can just up and move their kid to a charter school. We need to make sure our schools are getting what they need. Our children deserve better than being left behind because of where they live or how much money their families have. All right, let's bring it all together. We've talked about voting rights, healthcare, and education. 3 things that are absolutely crucial for our community. And here's the real talk. This big, beautiful bill ain't looking so beautiful when you break it down, at least for 99% of us. We're seeing potential restrictions on voting, questionable changes to healthcare, and shifts in education funding that could leave our kids behind. This isn't just politics as usual. This is about our day-to-day lives and our future. Listen, I know this is a lot, but we can't just sit back and let these changes happen without making our voices heard. We need to stay informed, talk to our representatives, make calls and send letters, and make sure we're showing up at the polls. A well-respected friend of mine said, when it's too late, it's too late. Because at the end of the day, this is about our rights, our health, and our children's future. So let's get to work. We've got a lot to fight for. And remember, when they go low, we go to the polls and to the streets and to the people who need to hear our voices. It's time for Patterson to make some noise before it's too late.